Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everybody. We're going to talk about something that this word has been around in the last couple of months, and it's been showing up. And it really does represent who we are, who we should be. And the word is authenticity. Are you authentic? Are you your authentic self? How do you know if you are or not? We're going to dig into that today. She's somebody that coaches people through all of this in many different areas and even on the HR side. She's got some great deep insight there. Denise Krumlian is back with us. How are you?
Hello, Steve. It's great to be here. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. And we need to reveal if you're watching this, you can see it. If you're listening to this, you can't. So I'll explain. You are wearing a costume today,
I am.
which represents a dog that has a lot of popularity. I wasn't
Yes.
aware of this dog until you explained it. You're a nudist.
Yes, I'm a nudist. I'm Noodles the Pooch. A little call out to Noodles the Pooch and dressed up like her today because I do have probably a little bit of a obsession with her. She's very funny. She's kind of an HR nightmare, to be honest. So as a leadership coach, I thought it was kind of funny to dress up as her today.
Love it. And she is somebody that just apparently doesn't care. I'm showing up, I'm doing whatever, phoning it in, if you will, and gets called on the carpet into
Yeah.
HR very often. Now, I wonder, is she being authentic?
hmm I mean, it may be presenting itself in some ways that aren't necessarily helpful for the work environment, but yes, I do believe she is. And that's part of why I thought it would be good to do this today, where our topic is about leading with authenticity. And it's not just for leaders of teams, but we all lead our lives. So we all are leaders. So how are we showing up and having our actions align with our values and beliefs and fostering connections?
Hmm. So I think, and I've done this before, you challenge us and you do make us think about people I've been involved with who have led teams. I was part of some of those teams. And I think, were they being authentic? And it's an interesting moment there. Um, in one position, and there was three people that I was involved with through a period of time. All they were in the same position, different times. One of them was authentic to a point.
Mhm.
The other one was, I would say he was mostly authentic. And the one in the current position, I have to say 100% authentic. Like he's real. I feel he's real. Um,
Mhm.
had not, they probably don't know whether they are being authentic or not. I'm viewing this and other employees, and we'd all say the same thing. So it's not just my perception. Um, how do you know if you're being authentic?
It's self-awareness. A lot of it is really about understanding, first and foremost, what are your values and beliefs? And then are your actions following suit with those values and beliefs? And so if, and how you know is how you feel a lot of
Mm,
times. So it's,
mm,
are you, that alignment piece can cause you to feel more at peace or calm versus if you're not in alignment, it can cause more stress.
right.
And the word lack of harmony comes up for me. And it's something that's why this topic is important because I've been on both sides of that in my leadership journey. And it's really something, especially for people that are stepping into a leadership role. Um, it's really important to think about so that you can really show up for your team and make those connections and build that trust.
Was there a time where you would identify that you didn't feel that you were fully being authentic?
Sadly, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
For much of my um, leadership management career, I struggled with it. And part of it is when you are being asked to do something that maybe doesn't feel right. Part of it might be that you're finding your way as a leader and trying to find what is your authentic voice, or what do you like, how do you want to show up? Because there's a part of it that's vulnerable, right? You're being vulnerable when you show up as your full self at work. So what does that mean? Do you show your silly side like I am today? Like that. Probably in my past, I might not have done that, and so yeah, I've been on both sides of that.
I'm right there with you. Um, and that's why I asked how you know if you're being authentic, truly authentic. I think, many of us are to a point, but are we 90%, 100% authentic? That's the question. But there is just a feeling where there's a comfort when you're being you. It's like that old song from, way back, one of the crooners, I gotta be me, I gotta be me. Where it's you're comfortable in your own skin, where this is me. You might not like it. I'm sorry, but that's the way it goes. You hold steady on those values. Um, is it also boundaries that go along with being authentic?
There can be, absolutely. I mean, how you present your full self maybe is situational. So, um, you know, w- how I present on a vacation might be a little different than how I am in a leadership workshop. But the underlying premise of still wanting to bring fun and energy and excitement into that workshop is still going to be there. I might show that in a different way a little bit than if I'm just on vacation,
Gotcha.
So,
All right, we're going to do an exercise here, if we may.
okay.
You mentioned values. That's a big part of this. Um, I'm going to give you what I believe are my values, and I have to think about it because it's not top of my head. But I want your values, and
Mhm.
Denise is not noodles.
Yes.
What would you say? And how many values should you have? Is it one? Is it five, three, or is it just come down to whatever you feel supports you?
I think it's whatever supports you, but you do want to, in anything, I like to keep it somewhat simple. So it's memorable, it's something you can embody, and it's something that you can draw upon so that you can actually use it.
Hmm. All right, pens out.
All right.
Um, let's see. I'm gonna write a few things down, and you do the same, and let's compare so we can really dissect what a value is. Maybe I'm writing something down. You might say, Steve, that's not a value. What are you talking about? Pizza's great, but that's not a value. All right. Mm. I'm just randomly writing words that I feel align with me.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's the right thing, but that's what I got going on.
Go for it.
All right, I've got five here. Hmm.
Hmm.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
I'm curious about your
I wrote facts. I pilot by facts. And just
Mm.
the way in my journey that they don't lie.
Hmm.
And the next thing I wrote down was truth because I
Hmm.
feel that's very important. Honesty, they go kind of hand in hand, but I wrote that down.
Hmm.
Um, I wrote down caring and compassion because that is a part of me, and I know it is for good or for worse. Um, those, and I'm not even sure how I get my arms around this thing called values. Um, so I'd love to hear yours or dissect mine. Um, what a value is. Those are just words I thought that align with me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the thing is what is most important to you? That at the end of the day is how I look at a value. What is something that's important that serves you, that helps be your kind of compass of how you like to lead your life. And
Hmm.
So,
It would be the honesty and the facts, the truth. There is I don't know why that comes up. Um, but that's, when people say certain things like, okay, well, let's look at the facts. Is that, somebody may have, let's say, did something, even on the HR side of things, but that's not the way it is. Okay, well, take a look at this. Whatever a fact is, whether it's a security camera, whether it's an email, that stuff is there and it doesn't lie. So
mhm,
that's, yeah, kind of important to me, the truth.
absolutely makes sense. Yeah. Trust and honesty are top of my values, as well as
Hmm.
compassion. So I think we're very aligned there. I also have connection and collaboration. So
Hmm.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I didn't know that would be a value, but I'm right there with you. And I am more of I don't want to use a cliche, the team player. I love working with others. I don't need to be the one to score the touchdown, the star, anything like that. It's we work together, and I've always been that way. So collaboration, I would put that on my list too.
Yeah.
Hmm,
And the other one that has really come forward for me, especially as I've moved into the space of coaching full time, is joy. So showing up as fun, or just feeling a feeling of joy. The fun part of me is coming out more than ever before. And that's, I think, something that I'm bringing to my work as well as the rest of my life. And it's really, I'm very excited to be able to feel free to show that side of me more fully.
interesting. And
Hmm.
I hear what you're saying. And I don't want to copy you, but I would agree with you looking at it through my eyes. And I feel that when you're more authentic, that comes out, right?
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
you're comfortable with who you are. So things are fun. There's more joy in what you do as opposed to if you're not being authentic. Maybe we should look at that. If you're not being authentic, something's not right. Something is misaligned. You go through life, you go to work, it's okay, but there's a missing piece, and maybe that's it, but we haven't identified that it's the authenticity that's missing from you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of things that can challenge people with being fully authentic. It can be the culture of the environment that they're working in.
Sure.
Maybe the company wants there to be, and rather than individuality, they want to have people be more conformist in one way, like-minded kind of thing, and they don't want those outliers of thought. I'm luckily seeing less of that in more recent times, but there's still pockets of that, I think. And it's also sometimes how people feel within their subcultures of their departments too. It can also be imposter syndrome, right? So you might not feel that you are adequately prepared to do the job, or that you can do it, that you're enough for it. And so
Hmm.
it's working through those things. So that's sometimes what I help leaders with, is just really getting to that place of more confidence, more clarity, and those values that we just talked about, so that they can lead with purpose and have more joy. The fun.
Hmm. You said subculture, and I'd like to add to that subconscious, because there may be things in your subconscious, could be from your childhood, could be from past relationships, jobs, whatever, that may be holding you back from being authentic because you feel that you need to be a certain way to maybe conform.
Yeah,
Um, there's a lot going on here that can get in the way.
absolutely. A lot of
Hmm,
how, we're brought up, in terms of like what was modeled to us, in the work, especially for the workplace, right? So how did our parents show up and going to work, and what did we perceive, even if it's not really what they did at work, because we didn't see them at work, but what did we perceive them to be? It can be an influence towards maybe how we think we should, that lovely word of should,
hmm,
versus who we really are. And so it's fascinating how many people get into a leadership position, or even just in general. You go from college, if whomever's listening at any stage of their life, there's different chapters, and so you go into a new work situation, and there's orientations for the rules of the role of the company, but not for how you show up necessarily. It's about that's individual to you. The company might say this is what we want or expectations, but what does that mean for you? And so that's where that authenticity is really important to understand.
Well, very true. You think back, to your parents, and let's say your dad, like, I gotta go to work again, be home later. Well, maybe you should take a look at yourself and how you perceive the work to be, where you just begrudgingly go in. You may just be repeating that pattern and
Yeah.
not even know that you're
Mhm.
doing that.
Mhm.
Wow, never even consider that. And you know what? Many of us will look at the workplace and the rules, if you will, operating procedures, and complain like, yeah, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do this. You probably can do a lot, but you're complaining about the rule.
Mhm.
You're making that the excuse where, let's be honest, the rule isn't, you have to sit up straight and cross your arms for 8 hours. You have to only take, 5 breaths every 2 seconds and not, 10, to do whatever you want. Um, we look at it in a negative way, but it's just a couple of guidelines. You can do probably whatever you want in between those and
Yeah.
be authentic.
Hmm.
Mm,
And yeah, I mean, some of it, that's part of why I love Halloween so much, honestly. So I feel like people bring out another side of them that maybe they give themselves permission to be
permission.
something that they don't the rest of the year. And, at one of the companies that I used to work at, we had a huge Halloween celebration, and people would dress up, and it was so fun to see people and see that side of them. And I loved it myself. And it added another layer of connection, which is one of the key pieces of, we've talked about my culture of and framework with connection, compassion, and then commitment. But having that connection, even in that sense of whomever you really are, people feel it. Like you said, you knew those three people, like you kind of were assessing this person was mostly authentic, this person was fully authentic. Well, how do you know that they were truly fully authentic? It's how you, was it how you felt with that person, or what made you think that they were fully authentic?
Hmm. Interesting. You just brought back a memory, Halloween memory, by the way, and it was the same company. And this is going way back. And I had been there, let's say, probably like 7 years. And there was an event at a, bar restaurant, a Halloween party, right? I was the MC. So I dressed as Billy Idol. Always
Mhm.
loved Billy Idol. Back then, my hair was spikier. I just sprayed it white, wore some leather. I put on my sister's leather pants. I don't know how I pulled that off. Talk about taking only 2 breaths every 10 seconds. But it looked authentic. Like, no, I'm Billy Idol. And
Yeah.
I was loving it. Like, it was just like, I was just being like, I'm low key, but that was an extension of who I'd like
Mhm.
to be.
Yeah.
All fun. The reason I'm bringing this up is my boss at the time saw the costume. Again, I'm describing it exactly the way it was. He actually said, go home and change. You can't wear that. I'm
Mhm.
like, what are you talking? I'm wearing a t-shirt, a black leather jacket, and black leather pants and boots, i.e. Billy Idol, some chains, whatever. All good.
Yeah.
He actually was telling me to go home. And I'm thinking to myself, well, as we're talking now, I was being authentic in that costume. There was a reason I chose it because, I had spiky hair and it's fun, whatever. And I like his music and it was a fun night.
Mhm.
Um, I persuaded him to not have me go home. Maybe it was the tight leather pants, but give me a break. Uh, but, to your point of, I don't know, maybe he couldn't be fun and authentic and he didn't get it. I kind of think that's what it was. Um,
Mhm.
but squashing, it's one thing if you show up naked somewhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, whatever. Uh, there is, some decorum and in class.
Mhm.
Uh, but it was almost like squashing my authenticity. Yeah, that moment on
Yeah.
Halloween,
And that happens a lot. I
right?
mean, most companies do have dress codes, most companies, and there, or even there's an unspoken expectation sometimes. And so some people, it might not be most comfortable for them. And so that's where, again, being true to yourself, is it something
Yeah.
that is prohibiting you from being your full self? Or is it something that you can get over and still show up and be effective because it's not a big deal? It depends on the person. So that's something that I've seen a lot.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah, another thought. There was times where I wouldn't wear any shoes in the studio on the air, and it's summertime. People are at the beach hanging out, whatever. And that same boss would say, "Put on a pair of shoes." I'm like, just said nobody in here. It's me.
Yeah.
I'm getting comfortable. Um, I think he had some issues with his own authenticity. I really do believe. But that is a challenge too. When you're in the workplace, you have a leader that doesn't allow you to be you. How do you get around that, or is it time for another job?
It's person dependent. I'm not going to say whether it's no judgment here. It's like it's really about the person and what they need. And so, I've been a leader that's had to tell somebody that their attire wasn't appropriate for the workplace. It's not a comfortable situation. However, you can do it with grace and compassion and explain what it is specific that the company is looking for and have it be something that's not personal to the person. It's not ideal. That's why those guidelines are usually there. But again, if that person
Hmm.
is going to be fully offended by it, then it might not be the right environment for them. So.
And I guess that comes with the company handbook, and I think it even comes back to expectations. What
Mhm,
are your expectations? What would you say is the best way? And we all want to be authentic. Who
mhm,
doesn't want to be real?
exactly.
The old phrase, keep it real. You want to be. How do you get there? What are
Mhm.
some of the things that we can do? Is it just what we did today? Writing down that starting point, writing down our values?
Yeah, that's a really great starting point in terms of increasing your self-awareness. Also understanding your strengths. What are your interests?
Mm,
What are the things that maybe you're not so strong at? I really don't love the word weakness because it's not necessarily, it's actually can be a superpower to know what the things are that aren't your strengths and interests.
yep.
And then with adding that with your values. And there's tools that you can use for that. There's multiple tools, Myers-Briggs,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, Briggs
Strength
Meyer.
Finder. Yeah.
Right,
Mhm.
right. Um,
I work on another one that helps leaders with being versatile leader. And so, helping them understand, what their strengths are and where maybe they need people on their team to support them. But again, it's being true to yourself. So all feedback can be a gift. That's another way of getting that is asking for feedback from your team, from your peers,
hmm.
friends, your family. How do you perceive me? What do you think
Wow.
are my strengths? So that you can get that input.
I believe we talked about the strength assessment test before.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
took the Clifford strengths,
Yeah.
and it's interesting. I would have written down the same values and caring and compassion, and it's easy to say that, because it sounds good.
Mhm.
However, after taking that test, my number two strength came back as empathy. So,
Mhm.
it's no BS, I guess,
Yep.
because that's what came back, and that's what I feel as is one of my values, and I
Mhm.
guess it's maybe one of my strengths.
Yeah.
Yeah, great talking about this today. It's so important. It's so important, but we don't realize how important it is. And if you're feeling like you're out of sorts, maybe you're not being authentic for whatever the reason is. Maybe you're trying to, maybe you can't, maybe you don't know how.
Mhm.
For that, we turn to you. And how do we find you?
DeniseKrumlian.com, easiest way, my website, and that's Denise Krumlian with a K, .com. And I have a contact page. You can set up a discovery call or a strategy session if you're looking for just some quick hit advice. I do one-on-ones and I can also do company group coaching too.
Very cool. Love the way you laser, you get to the point and you make it very clear. And I'd have to say that is definitely one of your top strengths. Really
Thanks.
is. No
Thank
doubt.
you. I really appreciate that.
Love having you here today. I'm going to be very transparent and honest and tell you one thing. I have never done a podcast with a nudist. I'm just saying, I never did. The first.
Excellent. I'm glad I could be your
Yeah.
first.
All right. Thanks, Denise, aka
Have a great
Noodles.
day.
And
Thanks.
we'll catch up soon. We're coming right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.